Pete Alonso is adamant on getting at least a 6-year deal this offseason, and the New York Mets, nor is any other team around this league prepared to give it to him at this very moment. Let's talk about it. All right, what's up, Mets fans? It's your boy CP, and welcome back to the True Mets Talk podcast. Welcome back to the channel. We are talking yet again about this ongoing Pete Alonso saga. Before we talk about the latest update from John Heyman, please do, if you are watching this video, smash on that like button for me. I definitely appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel. We are just about 6 subscribers away from 1900 right here on the channel. And comment your thoughts and opinions down below about how you all seeing this Pete Alonso situation resolving itself. Per John Heyman himself as of yesterday, and I quote, right now we're looking at Alonso wanting at least, key emphasis on at least, a 6-year deal. Now, there have been a ton of reports leading up to this point from the New York Mets surrounding Pete Alonso. Obviously, we know about the offer that was on the table, long-term deal, 7 years last offseason. We heard some rumors about potentially a 3-year deal with opt-outs in between for $90 million being on the table from the Mets this offseason. But it's very clear that Pete Alonso is looking and remaining confident that he is going to get this long-term deal. And this report and this statement from John Heyman comes just a little bit after the report from Bob Nightingale that Scott Boras has been going around to teams and using Prince Fielder's 9-year, $214 million deal as a benchmark for what Pete Alonso should be making in this free agency market. Now, John Heyman and Jeff Passan are both fairly adamant themselves that the way that this resolves itself is that Pete Alonso is going to remain a New York Met. John Heyman insisting that there could be a potential long-term deal on the horizon, or at least that's what Pete Alonso wants. Jeff Passan taking another stance here, basically stating that the most likely scenario for Pete Alonso, if he ends up back with the New York Mets, is a short-term deal, whether that's 3 years or maybe even 4 years, with a lot of opt-outs in between for Pete Alonso to go back onto the market and seek that long-term deal if he has a better regular season than what he had in 2024. No matter what, the objective thought process right here is that the Mets and Pete Alonso are at a standstill, and the reason for this is that there are a lack of other options for both sides on the table. And by that, I mean Pete Alonso doesn't have any long-term offers, if any offers at all, from any other teams that we know about. And if he did, he would be gone as quick as we could even imagine. Pete Alonso would be gone to his next team and his next endeavor. But on the flip side as well, the New York Mets are running out of alternative options to replace Pete Alonso with for 2025 and beyond. We know they can go the internal route with moving Mark Vientos over to first base, and they can backfill third base with either, an Alex Bregman, which is seemingly unlikely according to the latest reports, or they can trust in a Ronnie Mauricio coming off of an ACL injury, not exactly the route that I would go down if I were David Stearns, or they can go ahead and trade for an alternative option for Pete Alonso. We've talked about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. being an unlikely candidate, but a candidate nonetheless if the Blue Jays are willing to trade him this offseason. I'm still not buying into that hype just yet. I think it would make sense to pursue him as a free agent next offseason and just not give up the prospect capital this offseason, but you never know. But outside of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and his market, Andy Martino has not only taken an alternative candidate off the board in Yandy Diaz, stating that the Tampa Bay Rays do not seem to want to trade Yandy Diaz this offseason, so that takes him off the board for the New York Mets. But he's also opening up the possibility of a Mets and Red Sox trade for Tristan Casas. Now, we know the Red Sox want more pitching. They are being linked as we speak to a potential deal for Sandy Alcantara if he's on the trade block. But I'm not quite sure where Andy Martino is going with this Triston Casas possibility. Although he did say it is not probable, he also stated that it's not impossible. And I'm trying to run all the different scenarios through my head of how that would make sense for the New York Mets to trade for Triston Casas and let go of Pete Alonso while also simultaneously giving up a plethora, presumably, of prospects, pitching prospects, in an already thin farm system that doesn't have that much starting pitching depth. And if you're going to trade for a young and controllable player that has a lot of upside like Triston Casas, you're going to have to give up premier talent. We're probably talking about Brandon Sproat being in that conversation. And at the very bare minimum, Jonah Tong, although we know the Boston Red Sox want to compete right now. So they're going to want as MLB level ready prospects as they can possibly stockpile if they are going to get rid of Triston Casas in a deal. That does not make sense at all. So again, it's Pete Alonso, internal options now that Yandy Diaz is off the table, according to Andy Martino, or in the improbable scenario, getting Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and hoping that you are able to sign him to an extension, just like the Mets did back in 2021 with Francisco Lindor. That's how the situation would have to play out in order for the New York Mets to not replicate what the Yankees did with Juan Soto. Now, again, the most likely scenario here, and I'm going to remain positive because I am still in the camp of this deal gets done and Pete Alonso is going to have a prosperous career moving forward in a Mets uniform. But again, you have to look at it objectively from the New York Mets standpoint. With the lack of other offers on the table, why would they budge right now instead of just staring at Pete Alonso and Scott Boras, making them come down as spring training and opening day come closer and closer and closer? And there's been a lot of talk amongst Mets fans talking about, if you had a 3-year offer on the table, why not just go above and beyond to a 4th or 5th year? I mean, at the end of the day, the Mets are being run by 2 Mets fans in Steve Cohen and David Stearns. Why wouldn't they just overpay for Pete Alonso if they really wanted him? Well, that should be very eye-opening to a lot of Mets fans in that they overpaid for Brandon Nimmo because there was a lack of center field options in that market, and they gave him that long-term deal. Why wouldn't they do the same here with Pete Alonso? Again, I don't have the direct answer to that, but it's very, at least, eye-opening and should raise some eyebrows here in this Mets fan base on why that hasn't happened just yet. Again, we just have to look at it from both sides of the fence and both parties in this stare-down competition, why neither side wants to budge. It's your boy CP. This is the True Mets Talk podcast. Until next time, I'm out. Peace.